Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Welcome to another edition of Dailyish Devotionals. I am Pastor Brian. We're just going to jump right into the devotional today because I think it's a good one. The title is When Shopping Costs Too Much. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is going to be a story about when you used to be able to run into Target and you just go in for some toothpaste and come out with $150 worth of stuff. That's when shopping costs too much. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about shopping around for opinions and ideas and voices that only agree with you, and then filtering out any other voice except for what you agree with, and the consequences that has. And Ron has a good example in his book, Start Your Trip with a Full Tank, of a biblical example of that. Now, a real-world example of someone who needed to listen to others and seek advice outside of just yes people is right there. Mr. Joe Exotic. Now, if you don't know who that is, there's a Netflix documentary of 6 or 7 episodes about Tiger King, and it is a dumpster fire. It is a car wreck, but you can't take your eyes off it once you start watching. It is unbelievable. I'm going to say it's pretty much true. But even if they're actors and it's scripted or it's all kind of blown up out of a bigger proportion than it really was, it's still fairly entertaining, even though it is a dumpster fire and a train wreck. So if you got some spare time and want to see humanity not at its finest, go ahead and watch this Tiger King. But be warned, it's a bit out there. But he's an example of someone who needed someone to say, hey, wrong path here, Joe. These ideas are stupid. And didn't happen. And of course, that cartoon. Look closely, though. Shouldn't anteaters be on the other side of ants if we're doing that alphabetically? Right? Ants should be on the other side of that. Looks like it's going to be an antelope next thing, too. So obviously, that cartoon is not a representation of reality. They can't even get the alphabetical animals right. I couldn't do this whole episode looking at Joe Exotic. So what else represents wisdom better than a nice tall stand of trees? And that quote from Proverbs. Ron starts out his devotional from 1 Kings chapter 12. And I am not going to get this king's last name right, so if you know how to pronounce it, good for you, I don't. But it's the beginning of the king Rehoboam. We're just going to call him King R. How about that? But he's Solomon's son. He's about to begin his reign. And the people are asking that he be a little bit easier on them than his father was for the slave and the forced labor and stuff like that. So first, King R goes to the elders and says, what should I do? And the elders tell him, if you be a servant to the people, then the people will gladly serve you. And he says, I don't know if I like that advice. I'm going to go talk to my young friends and advisors. They say, hey, flex your muscle there, King R. Tell them you're going to be tough. Let them know who is in charge. So then Ron picks up the story in chapter 12, verse 8. King R rejected the advice the elders gave him and consulted the young men who had grown up with him and were serving him. In verse 13, it goes on, the king answered the people harshly. Rejecting the advice given him by the elders, he followed the advice of the young men, meaning he did treat them harshly, maybe even more harshly than his father Solomon had. So verse 19 reveals the consequence or the outcome. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. King R shopped for the advice he wanted to hear and not for the truth. He wanted advice that would reinforce him, not challenge him. It's good advice for today. I'm like that. I imagine a lot of us are like that. We sure like to listen to voices that reinforce what we already believe or that we already agree with. Sure, that's easy. That's great. What about those voices that challenge what we believe or maybe point out to us that we are going down a wrong path, or our choices and our actions are not good and healthy? Do we listen to them? Do we take them into account, or do we just continue shopping until we hear voices and find voices that we like and already agree with? Isaac asked me last night, he goes, Dad, how come there's so many different opinions on a story in social media? And I laughed and I said, well, kid, there's a saying about opinions. Not safe for work to share it here, but I said everyone has an opinion. And on social media, anyone can share it. There's not much fact check. There hasn't been any truth. You can say anything you want and put it out there. So I said, this is a good lesson in why you've got to be discerning on who you listen to and take everything with a grain of salt. Do some of your own critical thinking. Read a bunch of different perspectives on the topic. We're talking specifically about what's been happening with Greg Floyd and other things. I said, read a bunch of different articles from different news sites, different authors, different columnists, whatever. Some you may agree with the point of view, some you may not, and then make your own decision. And that's what we all need to do. I know I, as a pastor, love to have any ideas brought when we have a church board meeting. I even don't mind if my ideas are challenged. Hey, that's dumb. That's not going to work. I may disagree with the person. I may think it's going to work great, but I would always have people give their own opinions rather than just yes to whatever I want to do. My limits, I am limited. I am only human. So the more I can surround myself with people who have ideas and people who are afraid to speak up with their thoughts, the better our whole church family is going to be. Whereas if I just surround myself with yes people all the time, then it's only going to be as good as my mind and my wisdom is going to take us. And that's not very far. Because there's not a lot rattling around up here sometimes. Well, we need to be careful of that, because I think we do that a lot. I find myself sometimes too. If I'm going to make a decision about something, and I really, really want it, let's say it's a brand new BMW, and I know that if I buy it, I'm going to feel real good about myself. It's going to elevate my status, and I'm going to feel awesome driving that thing around. But then I hear a voice from maybe a father up in Minnesota, but are you going to buy that, and that payment's going to keep you from buying a house? Is that smart? We don't need a house. We have a parsonage. Or there's another voice saying, that's not a great investment. Your kids are going to want to go to college in a couple of years, and if you're still paying for that BMW payment or whatever, that's not a wise thing. Oh, don't worry. We'll worry about that 4 years from then. Then you hear the other voice saying, yeah, right, that is an awesome car. Think about being able to show off in front of others people, and that'd be neat to drive that around. Pretty soon you're drowning out those voices of wisdom saying, not good to strap yourself down doing that. You ever find yourself doing that? Something you really, really want to do, or you start hearing maybe from family or friends that there's some decisions that you're making or a road you've been traveling down that maybe isn't the best for you. We can run to friends or other sources or other voices that say, this is good, keep it going, good job. Or we can take into account those people that we respect and love. Maybe they have some truth to say. Now, Ron points out, make sure who you're listening to are godly people, people you trust, people you can admire, good, upstanding people, right? Because you can't just listen to any old voice. You'll go crazy. Don't ever listen to criticism from somebody you wouldn't seek their opinion. But you must have the people in your voice, the godly, the strong people that will say to you, wrong choice, wrong path, even no. And the ultimate guide is the principles in the Bible. The choice you're going to make, the path you're going to travel down, your journey, your life, does reflect the principles you find repeated over and over again in the life of Jesus or in the Bible. Don't be afraid to listen to instruction. Don't be afraid to read and to hear different voices that can offer different perspectives on any decision you have in life. Take them all into consideration when making decisions. Let them inform you. Don't just seek confirmation bias and things that are only yes men. It may feel good, it may be easy, but it's certainly not best. Amen? Amen.